there are few names in history as synonymous with power and destruction as that of Genghis Khan. Born as Temujin in the vast steppes of Mongolia, his name became feared across continents, a leader who conquered more land than any other individual in history. Genghis Khan was not just a conqueror but a merciless ruler who left behind a legacy of death and devastation. This video takes you deep into his rise to power, the brutal tactics he employed, and the way his empire crumbled after his death. The story of Genghis Khan is one of bloodshed, genius, and ultimately, a tragic fall. But the early years and rise to power, born in 1162, Temujin grew up in a world where violence and tribal warfare were the norm. His father, a tribal leader, was poisoned by rivals when Temujin was just 9 years old. Betrayed by his own people, Temujin's early life was marked by hardship, but he was determined to rise above his circumstances. As he grew older, he united the Mongol tribes through sheer force of will, charisma, and a ruthless elimination of his enemies. The young leader used terror as a weapon, crushing his opponents and creating a highly disciplined and loyal army. By the time he declared himself Genghis Khan, which means universal ruler, he had already begun to carve out an empire that would one day stretch from the Pacific Ocean to the heart of Europe. The merciless conqueror, Genghis Khan's military campaigns are some of the most devastating in history. His armies, known for their speed and brutality, would storm through cities, leaving destruction in their wake. Entire populations were slaughtered, and cities were razed to the ground. The fear Genghis Khan inspired was not just because of his army's size or strength, but because of their methods, a terror that paralyzed entire regions. One of his most infamous conquests was the invasion of the Khwarezmian Empire in the early 13th century. After a trade mission was ambushed and killed by the Khwarezmians, Genghis Khan declared war. He sent an army to annihilate the empire, and in retaliation for the betrayal, Genghis Khan wiped out entire cities. The destruction of the city of Nishapur, for example, saw a death toll in the hundreds of thousands. His armies didn't just fight, they terrorized and killed without mercy. The genius of a merciless leader, despite the extreme brutality of his campaigns, Genghis Khan was more than just a mindless destroyer. He was a brilliant strategist and tactician, often outsmarting his enemies with innovative military tactics. He employed espionage, psychological warfare, and mobility that was unmatched in the medieval world. His use of feigned retreats, where his army would pretend to flee, only to turn around and ambush pursuing forces, became legendary. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Genghis Khan's rule was his ability to maintain control over his empire. His army was not only a force of destruction, but also one of discipline and order. Genghis Khan had a strict code of laws, known as the Yasa, which emphasized loyalty and military discipline, but also extended to his treatment of civilians, albeit with brutal consequences for disobedience. The reign of terror and unification of the Mongol people. Genghis Khan's cruelty was not limited to warfare. He ruled through fear and made sure that everyone knew the consequences of defying him. His reputation was so fearsome that cities and empires would often surrender without a fight just to avoid the horrors that followed his conquests. However, Genghis Khan was also a unifier. His empire brought together people from different cultures and regions, from the Chinese to the Persians and even the Russians. Despite his savagery, he established one of the largest empires in history and implemented laws that, in some ways, were progressive for their time. He promoted trade, protected merchants, and created one of the most effective communication networks in the world. But these accomplishments do not overshadow the immense suffering his conquests caused. The mysterious death and legacy. Despite his fearsome reputation, Genghis Khan's death in 1227 remains shrouded in mystery. Some say he fell from his horse during a campaign against the Western Shia dynasty, while others claim that he was assassinated. Regardless of the circumstances surrounding his death, his empire continued to expand under the leadership of his descendants. After Genghis Khan's passing, the Mongol Empire fractured into different regions, but his legacy as a merciless ruler remained intact. His descendants, such as Kublai Khan, carried on his conquests, but none could replicate the sheer terror and unrelenting drive of the man himself. His descendants ruled for centuries, but the world would never see another like Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan's story is one of unmatched power and unimaginable brutality. His merciless approach to conquest and his ability to unite the Mongol tribes into an unstoppable force left a mark on history that is still felt today. Though his empire eventually fell, his name is synonymous with terror and genius in equal measure. He remains one of history's most feared and revered figures, a man whose rule shaped the world in ways that are still debated to this day.